For me, success is definitely personal. I want to see what I'm capable of doing. Hey there! So I just got done taking a 3-day break, and then I kind of ended my spring season, restarting for my fall training. And I want to talk a little bit about how to rebuild at the beginning of a training block, because I've struggled with this for years and years, where I work so hard for weeks and months and months and months and months, and finally I get to that end of my training block and I have like such a hard time letting go of that fitness that I have built up for so long. And so I hate taking a break and I hate restarting because it always feels terrible. And I hate feeling that lost fitness. And so I want to talk a little bit about that, because personally, I need to remind myself that it's really important to take breaks and it's really important to rebuild slowly. But it doesn't feel easy ever. And so I started running in 8th grade, right? Like, I'm 16 years into this, and every single time I take a break, I have this I miss running so much. I crave that routine that I'm so used to and that I do every day. And then when I finally get back to it, I am so ready to jump all in. And I don't know if you've ever felt this way, but physically, I'm always takes longer than I think it should, because I only took a couple of days off. I should be able to just jump right back in. But in a rebuilding phase, the whole idea and the whole point of building a base is taking it really slow and building up systematically and with a progression. So I ended my season, and then I took 3 days off, and then I ran every other day for a couple days, just 4 miles easy on my running days, and then took the other days completely off. Started to slowly incorporate back some strength work, and then I started running every day, but I'm still keeping it really minimal. So my long run this week was 8 miles. To put that in perspective, 3 weeks ago, I did 85 miles in a week, and my long run was 17 that week. And so my shortest run was 11 miles. So 8 miles is technically a very easy recovery day for me, but actually felt really long and kind of hard when I did my 8 miles yesterday. And so I always think it's so interesting, because at the end of a training block, every run starts to feel pretty good. A lot of distances don't scare me anymore. I'm always excited for workout days. I'm excited to push myself. I'm excited to test my limits. And then I take 3 days off, and sometimes on a break, depending on the race situation, I'll take 1, 2, 3 weeks off, just based off of how that training block went, where my body is. If I did a marathon, I'll take a lot more time off than I will if I do a 5K or a 10K. So it's really important to listen to the body, listen to the mind, because not only is it critical to reset the body and give the body some time to rest and let all of that hard work soak in, but I think it's so important to rest the mind, because running isn't just something that we do, for 30 minutes to an hour every day and then we forget about it. Running is, especially at a high level, an all-encompassing thing. And I think every runner can relate to knowing how, if you're not fueled properly, if you're not hydrated well, if you're not well rested, if you're running in the heat of the day versus at a cooler time of day, all these things are going to impact how you feel in your run. And so for me, like when I'm in training, I have a lot of this dialed in. I have my day structured around my run and how I'm going to recover from that run and how I'm going to rebuild from that run, how I'm going to strengthen for my next run, how I'm going to be ready to go for the days, weeks, months that are following. And with like taking a break, I feel like mentally just like not having that like routine and that stress and that like intense focus is so important. But usually by about like day 3, I'm like so over it. And I'm like, yeah, well, I was like really excited to stay up late, and I was really excited to not like eat well or not hydrate properly or not do any core strength or indulge in all kinds of things. And then I realized like very quickly how much I appreciate and am grateful for that structure, and how staying up late and going on long hikes in the heat of the day and having multiple drinks in a night adds up. And so I start to feel like really crappy really quickly. And then I change those habits, and it's like amazing how much better I feel in that build back. And I like to do that a little bit progressionally as well. So I don't like to go like just all in or not in at all. I think it's really important to kind of have like an ease into things where you're kind of slowly tightening up like lots of different aspects as you go into a season. So like for me, the main focus is like the last 4 to 8 weeks of a training block where I'm focused, I'm dialed in, like my goal is in the forefront of my mind every day. But I think when I'm like early season, it's really important to not be 100% focused in the lifestyle aspect, because I tend to get like that leads to burnout, and that leads to things like feeling more like a job. And while training and competing is my job, it's important to make sure that I set it up so that I'm peaked and ready to go at the right time, and it doesn't happen too soon in my training block. And especially for someone like me who prefers a really long build up, so I like to have 4 or 5 months leading into a race of consistent training. Some people are able to do much shorter than that. I don't like to rush it, and so for me, it's like super important to just take things really systematically and progressive, but like make sure that it's a slow and steady build. And that seems to be ideal. I do really well with a strong base. So I personally like to do at least 4 to 6 weeks of base work starting out, where like there are not a lot of workouts. I'm just building up the volume, building up the running, and like slowly increasing my mileage, and just getting really comfortable with running and the routine of running. And that's when I'm really focusing on my strength training and on my core and on my rolling and my stretching and taking care of my body. And then I kind of transition after that into a little bit more of like structured workouts and that type of thing. But I think that base work is so important and so underrated. And so there have been times where I've done 2 or 3 months of base work at the start of a training block. And that's why I really like those long training blocks, because it helps build up that strength and that stability and like structural stamina that I need to be able to handle like the later workouts and like the longer, harder stuff that's to come down the line. And if I rush it, that's often when I tend to get injured. And so many runners, like myself included, would rather just like jump right back in after taking a break. Like, okay, I took a week off, like I lost fitness, I need to get right back. And so typically what I will do is I'll take that break, and then I'll do every other day running and then I'll slowly build up from there. And so this week I'm going to alternate just 6 and 7 miles each day with a long run of 10 miles. So I'll be at around like 50 miles for the week. And obviously I want to work up to like that 85, 90 miles a week. And so you'll have to figure out like the percentage that's right for you based off of where you want to get. And then I will slowly build up from there. So like next week I'll try and be like around 60, and then the week after that I'll try to be like around 70. And so it'll take me about a month to get back up to that volume. And once I get back up to that volume, that's when I'll start adding in some workouts and adding in some more intensity. But until I'm like comfortably able to handle the volume that I want to be at, I wouldn't add more stress to that, because with running, what we're looking for is we're looking for gaining efficiency, and that efficiency is what's going to allow us to run faster for a longer period of time. And ultimately, that's everyone's goal in running. And so if we rush that process, we're not going to be able to build up that efficiency, and like we're not going to have all of those tools that we need to put together an entire season, an entire training block. So making sure that you're looking at it as kind of like a pyramid, where the base is like the longest part of your training. So for me, like I said, if I'm doing a 5-month training block, I might do 2 to 3 months of base work, and then I'm gonna start climbing. So make sure that you're not rushing that process, and that it's something that you can take your time and recognize the importance in, because so many runners have that, like, I need to be doing track workouts, I need to be getting my mileage up to this, I need to be running, this amount of time at this pace for my long run before I know that I'm fit and ready. And just, I encourage you to be patient and to be understanding that it shouldn't happen right away. I feel always like when I take a break and I come back, the first month, I'm like, wow, running is so hard and I'm running so slow. And it feels like, how am I ever going to work back up to that volume and that mileage that is my peak goal? And so as a coach, I do this with my clients, where I only let them see 2 weeks ahead at a time. So that way they can see ahead, they know what's coming, they can mentally prepare, they can structure their schedule around like their running and their long runs and their workouts that week. But I don't allow them to see like months and months at a time for 2 reasons. One, I like to be able to make changes. So I only work usually around 4 weeks ahead. So if they only see 2 weeks, I'm only 2 weeks ahead of what they're seeing. So then that way I can make schedule adjustments, and I can look at their training and I can see, okay, they handled this really well, they didn't handle this well, we still need to stay in this phase for a little bit longer, or they're doing everything great, we're ready to move forward. So it just gives me like that feedback, and I like to be able to make those adjustments as we go. The second reason that I only let them see 2 weeks ahead is that they don't freak themselves out, because I know firsthand every single time I'm rebuilding and I'm at the start of a training block, if I had the ability to see, 5 months ahead of where I am right now, I would be like so overwhelmed. And it would be like, how in the world does 8 miles feel long for my long run, but I'm supposed to be running 22 miles at the end of this whole thing? And that's like a typical marathon buildup for me, like where I would start at like an 8-mile long run and I would finish at a 22-mile long run, and ultimately, end at a 26.2-mile event. And so it feels like so overwhelming, and it's so important to stay more present and more focused and in the moment, and then take those really progressive steps forward, but not rushing that process. So those are just a couple tips. Hopefully it's something that you can take and learn from and incorporate into your own training and into your own build-up for whatever your future goals are. And I certainly hope that you can hear that that first month is really hard for me too, and it's really tough to rebuild that consistency. It's really challenging to rebuild that focus sometimes, and it just takes a little bit of consistency, a little bit of focus, a little bit of determination, and remembering those big goals that are to come. And if you're just chipping away slowly and slowly, all those things become more and more natural and more a part of your day, and are going to help you get to the success that you want to have at your ultimate goal down the line. So thanks for chatting tonight and listening to me, and I love to hear your feedback on these. I also love to hear what you want me to talk about, so feel free to write a comment or send me a message. You can follow me on Instagram at Neely S. Gracie, and please subscribe to my channel here so that you don't miss any of my future episodes. All right, take care, and we'll see you next week.